Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and I am delighted to be welcoming you to the grand final of the ESU public speaking competition. And as you can tell by the redness of my face right now, I'm very excited. According to the National Institute of Mental Health, the #1 fear for the average person is public speaking. The second is death. This means more people would rather die than speak in front of a crowd. Fortunately, today's speaker is not glossophobic. I have the honour of introducing Frankie Fox from St Paul's School in Year 11, who will be talking us today on her topic, Is Learning Philosophy as Valuable as Mathematics? With interests in gene editing and the ethical implications of science, Frankie has chosen this topic because, among all the rest, it was the first to stand out to her, as she feels this topic resonates with her. To my left is my fellow Year 10 classmate, Eve Buckley, from Torquay Girls Grammar School in Year 10, who will be undertaking the role of the questioner. A friendly reminder, Frankie, you have 5 minutes for your speech, and I'll ring my bell, which is currently in my pocket, when a minute remains. Without further ado, the floor is now yours. Good luck.
Is learning philosophy as valuable as mathematics? A weighty question. Both are important fields of study. Philosophy is concerned with fundamental questions and improves our critical thinking skills. Mathematics deals with numbers, quantities, and shapes, and is essential to science, technology, and engineering. Does this all sound like something you've heard one time too many? Would it surprise you that this has been produced by none other than ChatGPT? Probably not. For me personally, these succinctly programmed responses clearly show that the mathematical minds of AI cannot imitate an organic human answer to such a pivotal question. They may be highly intelligent, but still are totally detached from morality. It says itself, as an AI language model, I don't have a personal opinion, but I can provide information on the topic. Only human beings have that natural sense of morality, the distinguishing between right and wrong, that no machines can replicate. It is for this reason that I believe studying philosophy is just as valuable as studying mathematics, especially in light of what the future promises. Mathematics has been intrinsic to the progress of civilization over centuries. Particularly with the flowering of the digital era, it serves as a force of optimism, defined by the belief that each technological advance, smarter cell phones, revolutionary medicine, or indeed AI software, can only enhance our lives and give us hope for the future. However, it is increasingly clear that the more power that we give this technology, the greater demand there is for human ethical discussion. From seemingly simple moral questions, should I do my work or just shove it into a chatbot, to the emerging AI bias, the possibility of AI implants in the human brain, and AI weaponry, the ethics are going to be critical to a safe and livable future. Already, Russia is thought to have employed their AI munition, coined the suicide drone, in Ukraine. Philosophy is no longer just ivory tower thinking, but the vehicle through which diplomatic, military, and humanitarian policy must be guided. It is vital to each and every one of our lives. As machines that think begin to run our world, humans are put on the back foot, made redundant by the very mathematical algorithms that we created. Elisa Yudkowsky, the lead of the Machine Intelligence Institute, stated, "The most likely result of building AI is that all of us are going to die." As someone who is about to study philosophy at A-level, It is probably expected that I would urge you to reflect on societal advancement. But when the mathematicians see the world descending into real-life dystopia, perhaps it is clear that something is missing in their equation. We need to harness the power of philosophy to control AI's excesses and limitations. Ironically, going back in time only proves the perpetual link between maths and philosophy. The great figures who established the society we know today, Plato, Aristotle, Socrates, were all philosophers and mathematicians. For any of us to succeed in the future, whether that be tech, finance, creative industries, we will need the capacity to evaluate ethical implications and enforce restrictions on technology. All these fields trade in concepts: the historian's notion of evidence, the scientist's idea of matter, the mathematical notion of a number, and thus all have a philosophical element. However, as a student in the 21st century, there is still an emphasis on taking maths forward. The singular tool one needs to get into a high-powered industry, make millions, and succeed in the workplace. Look to our Prime Minister, who wants to make just maths a compulsory part of education until 18. Philosophy should be too. The students of today and those of tomorrow need it just as much as they need maths. It isn't a case of choosing between the two, but rather how each one of us can amalgamate and balance philosophy and maths. Just as the philosopher and physician Francois Rabelais once said, "Science without conscience ruins the soul." Philosophy may not be able to create thinking machines or killer robots like maths can, but it is the only thing that can prevent them from subjugating our civilization and ruining the soul of humanity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Frankie. A powerful speech. I particularly enjoyed when you spoke about ChatGPT and actually went ahead and used an example that it created. That really had an impact. And I'm certain that Eve would like to follow up on that. Just a reminder, you have 4 minutes for questions, so please keep answers short but succinct. I will now hand over to Eve. The floor is yours. Good luck.
Thank you, Isabella, and thank you for your informative and inspirational speech on such a delicate topic. I'd like to begin by asking, if you were to name one way of changing the narrative on the value of philosophy, what would you say this would be?
I think for me personally, as a student, there's kind of this huge narrative that you can either be a STEM student or a humanities student. And I think what philosophy does as a logical discipline, just like mathematics or science, is it kind of amalgamates the two and brings them together. And so the one narrative that, for me, I would want to destroy is the idea that you have to be one or the other. You can't be both. And I think going forward, it's imperative that we are able to do both.
Wow, thank you for that. That's definitely an answer that I'll have to consider. In capitalist society, some may argue that maths is becoming increasingly important. What would your response be to this?
I think not only increasingly important, but if we look to the future, look to the past, and at the moment, going into a job which has maths in it is likely to get you a really large salary, and for a lot of people, that's why they do it. But I think in the future, all of these jobs in high industries and technology and medicine, they're all going to involve philosophy. And so I think the idea that right now, if you want to make money, you have to do maths, yes, it's true. But in the future, these kind of jobs are going to need philosophy as well, and I think that's what's really important to recognise.
You mentioned how philosophy will have to be used to influence the ethics of AI. Is there any sort of legislation that can implement this?
Well, actually, recently, about a month ago, the Future of Life Institute, which is made up of about 1,000 tech scientists, as well as figures like Elon Musk, decided that they wanted to put a 6-month moratorium on kind of AI and development and basically shut it off. So I think already the fact that the big tech people in the world are realizing the dangers shows that regulation is going to be needed.
You mentioned the word moratorium. Could you go into more detail on what that means?
So it basically means they shut down all discussion and kind of advancement with AI, which actually I think is particularly ironic considering Biden only a week ago was talking about how he needs to upscale the AI weaponry of the US in order to kind of compete with Russia and make sure they get ahead in the arms race of new AI technology.
Do you think preventing these discussions in AI was a positive or a negative?
I think the power of philosophy and ethics is not to shut down AI, but to kind of move with it and ensure that it's safe and can mold into our future. I don't want to stand here and say that technology is a bad thing, because there's so many ways it benefits us, our society, but I think it's about using our human capacity for reflection to understand where we can draw the line in kind of a plethora of industries.
I'm so sorry, but in the interest of time, please could you make this your last question?
Of course. Do you think there is ever a future where AI can have ethical conversations? Like, do you think there's a world where AI can have ethics and morality?
Well, I think the thing is, we're seeing at the moment that AI is just becoming more and more intelligent. And I think in the future, it will be able to overpower humans and all of our kind of mathematical abilities, our ability to kind of add up, our ability to, do surgery, all of these things. But I think the one thing it simply cannot do, because it is not human, is have that human capacity for empathy, for understanding. And no matter what machines do, they're never going to be able to kind of outdo us in that sense.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eve, for those insightful questions. And I'd like to congratulate Frankie on her perspicacity today. Now, I'd like to welcome the audience for any questions that you may have. Wow, yes.
You talked about AI. Do you think that governments and military organisations actually would welcome the ability to use AI to make the non-emotional decisions to save them from having to be involved in it? For example, refugees coming across the channel, we have philosophical discussions. We empathise, we sympathise. AI might not do that. Could a government then turn to its AI and say, well, it's made this decision, we'll not have these boats arrive, things like that?
Well, I think particularly on the kind of military side of thing, the great thing about AI kind of autonomous weapons is humans have no part to play in the damage that it's causing to civilians and infrastructure. So if you've got an AI weapon, it's a lot easier for a country to kind of send it in and destroy kind of, especially in like LEDCs, for example. It's much easier to kind of go in and detonate the area if it's an AI weapon making the decision rather than, the government back at home. So yeah, I would completely agree with that.
Yes?
Since humans are better than a computer in the work they do, why is there an increase in the production of these computerized programs, even though we value quality in a workplace?
Okay, so I'd actually disagree with you on that. I don't think that humans are actually better than AI in a lot of ways. I think increasingly we're seeing that with surgery, with finances, AI can just do it better than us. And I think that's why we've got to hold on to the one thing that AI can never take away from us, which is the ability to have philosophical thought and reflection. Because all of those things in those industries, AI can do and will do better than us.
Well, Amelia, it seems that your speech has certainly intrigued our audience. However, we are sadly out of time, so I'll be moving us on to my closing comments. Thank you both for your contributions today. The complexity of this topic is undeniable, and it would have been impossible for Frankie to cover everything there is to say in just a mere 5 minutes. Personally, for me, it seems that the crux of this argument boils down to studying philosophy is just as important as studying mathematics. The more power we give to technology, the more influential it can be. Humans may be taken over by the AI created at our own hands. There is an undeniable perpetual link between maths and philosophy. However, as we learned in the questioning when Eve explored, maths is becoming more important in society. However, like maths, philosophy is found in every job, from things like volunteering to high-paying careers. And I felt that was the inquiry that was most pertinent. This debate has been fascinating, and it will certainly play on my mind as I face the long journey home tonight. Now, before I finish, I'd like to thank Frankie for her eye-opening speech and Eve for her thought-provoking questions. And I would also like to thank the judges and the ESU for providing this challenging experience, although a nerve-wracking one. And I'm sure you'll receive many more thanks as the finals progress. And to the audience, thank you for your active engagement and participation throughout this presentation. They don't teach GCSE philosophy at my school. The focus is definitely maths. So, Frankie, I'm going to take some of your points that you made today into my maths lesson on Tuesday and see if I can get my maths teacher to cling a little less tightly to her textbook. Good afternoon.